Hey everyone, this is Ultra Winner. Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about game-changing action figures in your collection. I was talking to a buddy of mine that collects, and he's got a much bigger collection than mine. It actually lives right down the street from me. He's been collecting consistently for probably maybe about 30 years. And he's got his collection just range from literally from little stuff to cartoons to discontinued IPs, the whole nine. And so I was talking to him about what has him collecting and what made him collect, and what made him start, what made him stop, or and also what changed your collecting strategy in your collection. So was there something that came out that you were like, oh man, this really makes me want to do things differently in my collection? And so I started looking at mine, and we kind of talked through it for a bit, and I was like, let me go home and take a look at my collection and see what I have that really is kind of really changed or really kind of directed how my collecting habits went. And it was pretty surprising to see, some of the figures in your collection, because we have our favorites, our most important things of that nature. But I'm talking about literally okay, what really motivated your collection habits to change? So I've been collecting off and on for probably most of my life, and I stopped collecting for about 20 years, and then I started collecting again back in 2022. Yeah, so about 4 years ago. And so I wanted to do a top 5 of basically what was the game changers for my collection, and kind of show you guys why, and really have you guys kind of let me know what happened in your own collections. But I'm gonna start with my honorable mention. Honorable mention is going to be the what I call the Tython bow, but that's what the Black Series called it. But everybody calls it the recovered armor, or Boba Fett. But this was the first piece I got in my office when I started working from home. One of my sons bought it for me, just to kind of, because he knew I love Boba Fett, and he didn't realize this was a different Boba Fett from what I typically have, which is Jeremy Bullock Boba Fett. There, this is Tamora Morrison, of course. And so I put it on my desk, and I was like, ooh, that was kind of cool, but maybe I should get another. I see if Funko makes a one that actually is the Jeremy Bullock. And so I got that one, and then before you know it, I started collecting again, and it was all because of this guy here and my son giving me something super cool. So that was my first piece there. So but I'll go with my top 5. So number 5 is going to be, pointing the camera right at him, that is the quarter scale Boba Fett, the Daimyo set. And this is the diorama Daimyo version, because they did sell him without this. And actually the first one I bought didn't have the diorama base. But how this really changed my collecting habits, because I was looking at, before I was collecting 1/12 scale, and then I started looking at the Hot Toys 6 scale, and then I think it was a YouTuber talking about how quarter scale is kind of dead and how they don't really make a lot of them, which is kind of funny because they still do, but not as much they make with the 6 scale. And so, of course, this was not a super popular show. I was a fan of it. Granted, it wasn't the greatest, but I'm a Boba Fett fan, I'm a Tamora Morrison fan, and I liked some of the characters they introduced, and with the exception of a couple things that were kind of kooky, the glossy candy apple bikers game. The rest of the show was okay. I don't like what they did to him, which we'll go into that in a different when I do my tour. But I actually kind of made an adjustment for that in my collection. But this guy here was, everybody's like, oh, quarter scales, they're clunky, they don't really look that good. They're just upscale 6 scales, and they're not as detailed. But I can tell you, this head sculpt that comes to him is, literally, it is a 10 out of 10. But, this is my favorite look for Boba Fett, and so when I decided to pick him up, I wasn't disappointed at all. I love the diorama base. It does light up. You've got a couple different views on it. You've got the steps on here. But the reason this really changed my collecting because it made me look at 6 scale totally different, and you can make it work. Like in this case here, I've got him along with some 6 scale and Funkos. And, like a lot of statue collectors, they'll have larger statues with smaller statues next to them. And then they'll have like the proximity pieces, and that's kind of how I'm treating the Funkos and like this Boba Fett Infinity piece here. But it's just one of those things where it made me really look at collecting and how you set your collection up. Totally different than true how 6 scale collectors typically look at their stuff. So this is definitely a big game changer for me. So number 4, gonna come back over here, and number 4 is the 501st Battalion Deluxe figure from Hot Toys. Now, when I picked up Ahsoka, that's all I was gonna get. And then I started looking around and I saw, and of course, when I started collecting, these guys were already been out, so they were aftermarket. And so I ended up finding a couple or looking around and seeing them. And I was like, man, these are really cool. And the fact that you can make them 332nds or 501st, and they came with, a rocket launcher, the minigun, the long rifle, short gun. I mean, they just came with everything. And I was like, what a cool way to army build. And so right now I've got 2 of them, but they really made me start looking at the army build function of it. So I got Ahsoka, I got Rex, I got Vaughn, and then I set up this, and I was like, okay, this is super cool. So I got that set up there. And then when I got Maul, I was like, ooh, maybe I should do the same thing with Maul. So I got Maul, and I got, 2 of the Mandalorian, or the Maul DeLoreans, and then the Death Watch, because as you guys know, of course, the Death Watch Mandalorian became the Maul DeLorean. So, but this guy here really made me understand or really see army building differently, because I was army building in my previous life, which was the 1/12 scale, and it's easy to do a Black Series because the figures are like $20 each, but it's a lot different when you're doing it for a $250 figure. And when I bought these were, of course, not readily available from a sideshow or any retail place, or the bottom secondary, and it wasn't bad. I got a pretty good price for them, but yeah. So, that was the number 4 figure as far as, and like I said, this really kind of changed my perspective of army building and really just making the collection exactly what I like it as far as how my 12 scale collection went. So, number 3 is not pictured, but it's actually I'm going to insert her photos here. It's a BVS Wonder Woman by InArt. So, as you guys can see, and as you probably already know, there's no Batman on my shelf. Well, I didn't even want to pick up Superman, even though I really like BVS, and and just in case you guys think I'm not just one-off kind of like her, this is my poster wall, and one of my posters is the BVS movie because loved it. I love a big Snyderverse fan. You guys already know that. Got Cyborg over here. But he wasn't even really a game changer for me. But when they announced that Wonder Woman, I'd been looking at Superman, but I was like, I don't want to pick up Superman and just have him by himself because I'm a Cavill fan, Snyderverse fan, but I just don't want Superman by himself because I don't have any other DC characters. At the time I only had Marvel. Well, they announced the Wonder Woman, and I immediately tried to find one of these guys new because I didn't want to buy one secondhand, and I found them on Kit. 1/6 Kit had them brand new, so picked them up, and because of that, now I have the Batman coming in from InArt. I have the Christopher Reeve 2-pack coming in from InArt. So that figure, that BVS Wonder Woman figure being up for order, or being really allowed me to jump into the InArt realm, and now I have one in hand already, which I think he's a phenomenal figure on his own. And then you've got I've got maybe 4 more coming in, at least, depending on what else they do with the line. And they tease the Man of Steel. I'm probably going to get him. And they tease Black Suit Superman on one of the live streams. I'm definitely getting him to go over here. 'cause I need him and a tactical suit Batman, and I'm pretty much good. Maybe a Wonder Woman 84, but yeah. So Wonder Woman, that was what really jumped me to InArt, and that's a different level of fit finishing detail than you get with Hot Toys. I mean, they don't have the same IPs, but bro, InArt is pretty amazing. And if you're wondering what this Kryptonite staff came from, this is actually this is from Fusion Reactors. This is custom. This is actually, he built this from scratch. So this is actually not the Hot Toys one. This is actually one that he builds and then he does a hardwire light into it. So super cool. Fusion Reactors, you can go to their website, or you can also look them up on Instagram. All right, so my number 2 figure is Sam Wilson Falcon Cap. Now, this is actually the first Hot Toys figure I ever bought, which is why he is, if you look at my collection, he is front and center. He is in the dead center of all my caps. Cap is actually my favorite comic book hero growing up, and I really love the MCU version of it by Chris Evans. And this Falcon Cap with the wings was just such a cool figure. And like I said, I wasn't even collecting 1/6 at the time when I bought him. I just was trying to pick up a bunch of different caps. I had all the Mayfix. I had every Mayfix and every SH Figure Arts Captain America made. And then I saw this one, which a couple of toy tubers had, showing them off, and it was pretty neat. And I was like, okay, I'll look at them. And of course, the show was trash. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the show was terrible. And because of that, the figures didn't sell well. And I found this, I think I found it on eBay for like $175, and this was less than 4 years ago. I guess I got this I bought my first Hot Toys figure in December 2023. So I got this in 2023, so I guess 3 years ago. So I picked him up and had him in the collection. So I only had one 1/6 scale figure with all my 1/12 scale figures. And I love it. I think it's the cleanest suit. I love it way better than the Brave New World suit. This is super cool. Love that white, and it really makes him look different than Steve. And because he's not Steve, he's Sam. So I really like the fact that they did this instead of making a new suit where it looked more like Steve. That's just not what I'm looking for. But I love the presence of the wings. Got a kind of like a really majestic feel, and still looking pretty techy. And like I say, the way I have it set up here with all my caps, he's higher up because he flies. Not because he's better, but it's because he flies. So I wanted him kind of floating, and just really make him a centerpiece of the collection because he's moved around multiple times. But I mean, this is the first Hot Toy I ever bought, so I really wanted him to be showcased, and that way, and like I say, for me to, every time I look at him, I just think about, hey, you were the first 1/6 scale figure I ever picked up. Like I said, I've only been collecting really since 2024, December 2024, so not even 2 full years. So, but this was such a great piece, and really liked it. And like I said again, this was like I said, my first ever Hot Toy, so first ever Vision to 6 scale. And then my number 1 game-changing figure in my collection is this guy here, Savage Opress. Now it's funny because Savage came out this year, so that just kind of tells you, kind of like, well, how did he, change your collection habits? Well, I was collecting 1/12 scale, had a lot of Black Series, SH Figure Arts, Mayfax, all those guys. And I'd been picking those up because I really enjoyed them. I mean, I think they were super cool, really detailed. I had this same shelving. I just had them all on the different shelves, all types of army building. It was crazy. Really enjoyed it. And then if you guys hadn't figured out, just looking at a little bit of the collection, and I'll just pan over here to this. Huge Clone Wars fan. Massive Clone Wars fan. Like, Star Wars is my number 1 IP for sure. It's probably like 1A is Star Wars, 1B is Transformers. And I really loved the Clone Wars because it fleshed out a lot of what, as a prequels, and I grew up with the original trilogy, but the prequels were good to me. A lot of people didn't like them. I thought they were fine. And Revenge of the Sith, is my favorite movie of the three, of the six, because we don't count the last three. But I remember just how much I liked the whole arc with Savage and Maul, and their brotherhood and the whole nine, and it was just such a cool thing. And I remember when Black Series showed their Savage press, I was like, oh, I can't wait to get it. That's gonna be awesome. He's gonna be a bigger figure. And they do the same thing that Hot Toys does. They don't make animation characters animated. They basically put a real world spin on an animated character, so it wasn't gonna look just like the animation. So, which I was fine with. But when I saw it, I was like, this figure does not look great, and everybody was like just glazing it, like, oh, look at it, this is the Black Series version. They were just glazing. I'm like, it looks terrible. His face looks terrible. His proportions look terrible. I didn't like it at all. And then I remember seeing, I got a recommendation for, I'm sure because I was searching on YouTube for Savage Press Black Series. Hot Toys announced this guy. And I saw the prototype for it, and I was like, what in the world is that? And just looking at it, it's the same thing. It's a real world spin on an animation character, but they did a great job of keeping it pretty true to animation. I think he looks better than Maul does, in the same set, but because of course they're using his head for the animation character now in the Maul Shadow Lord, but this is actually the Phantom Menace head. So, but everything else, his look, I just think they just knocked it out of the park. And when I saw this guy and I saw how much he was, I literally sold every 12 scale figure I had. Everything. I kept maybe 2 or 3, but I probably sold like 500 figures. And I started using that to fund my 6 scale collection. So that's how much I love, Savage, and I love Clone Wars. I mean, again, frame comic book with him and his brother right there. And I'll do that. I'll go over that stuff more when I do my collection tour. I'm waiting on the figure to come in, which should be here Tuesday. And once I do that, I'll go and get that recorded, because it's going to be a long one. I've got that and a bunch of Transformers that recently came in. But yeah, this guy was the reason I started collecting 6 scale completely. He wasn't my first figure, wasn't my second, third, or even my 10th. But he was the reason that I decided to ditch 12 scale and started picking up 6 scale. This 12 scale and started picking up 6 scale. So, and again, he has a center prominence on my display now. So I used to have them where Cyborg is, and because I had Ahsoka over here where Superman is, and so I've done some rearranging because I really would, and I'll go into that in more detail when I do my collection tour. But yeah, like I say, so my first Hot Toy there, and the reason I collect Hot Toys, dead center with this little 5-piece and this boys in the back ready to go to war, Maul flashing the Darksaber, and this is the Fusion Reactor as well. But yeah, so I guess, like I said, for me, this is really how my 6 scale journey started. And I'm sure you guys probably have similar stories as well, and I'd love to hear those. So post your comments and down below, and let me know what got you into your collecting habits, whether it's 6 scale, whether you got into statues, whether you got to 12 scale, whether you did like me, went from 12 scale to 6, or like a lot of people are going from 6 scale to 12, or anything in between. Let me know down below in the comments. Appreciate you guys staying by and hanging out. Thanks a lot. Later.